Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Actor Thomas video. Now, first of all, obviously this isn't where I normally film. I'm usually in quite a nice warm house talking to you on a Sunday, but today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I would go out and do a bit of a video like this because as you can probably tell by the title, this video is going to be the story of Star Wars. And I thought, where else would be nice to have a little bit of a talk about Star Wars and what the Star Wars story is, than being out and about, just walking around. Now, of course, a lot of people will probably be watching this video thinking, well, the story of Star Wars is good and bad, the light and the dark, fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, and political power, political intrigue, and just, you know, like I say, good and evil. And in many ways, you are right. It is those stories, of course. But another thing that you have to remember is that Star Wars is a story about one single family. It obviously all started off with Anakin moving into Luke, and now moving into Ben. Now, that is very interesting, but there is other little things that you have to remember about the Star Wars story. But before we get to any of that, let's start at the very beginning. So, the very beginning is this. You have a freaky sort of space force called the Force, and their followers are, of course, the Jedi. The Jedi have enemies called the Sith, and after a massive long war, one Sith decides to make a rule in which there can only be two Sith at one time. One being the Master, and the other one being the Apprentice. And the whole idea is basically, at some point or other, the Apprentice will decide that they can outdo the Master, kill the Master, then become the Master themselves, and find their own. Then, like I say, we jump a little bit into the future, and this is where we meet you have Jedi Master Yoda, Jedi Master Windu, and some others. But you also have, on the other side of the Force, which of course the Sith, being Chancellor Palpatine, under the name of Darth Sidious. And Darth Sidious has an apprentice called Darth Maul. And Darth Maul is a very well trained Sith, and because of this, he then becomes quite arrogant about the whole thing, and yeah, definitely, and then becomes a bit more controlling and wanting to do his own missions and things like that, which of course his master doesn't really want him to go off and do himself, because if he does things by himself, then he might become a little bit more wanting to become his own master and kill his own master, and then find an apprentice of his own. So, but going back to the story, Maul gets sent off to do missions by Palpatine, like destroying villages and silencing political opponents on Palpatine's orders. But on one of these missions, Palpatine, under using his Sith codename, has decided to create a friction between one planet and a trade federation. And during this, the Jedi Order has sent two people, two Jedi, one being Qui-Gon Jinn, and the other one being a young Obi-Wan Kenobi. And their job is to smooth the waters and make people realise that there's no point in really fighting. You should all be friends and try your best to get on with one another. Which, of course, is brilliant if that can actually happen. If it can't happen, then it's a bit stupid, it's a bit of a waste of time. And the Trade Federation try and kill these two Jedi. The Jedi split up and meet down on the planet of Naboo, where they meet up with a strange little fella called Jar Jar, who is then exiled by his own people, who then, with the two Jedi, Queen Amidala, have to escape this planet. And when they're escaping, they go to the planet of Tatooine, where trying to find someone to help them fix their spaceship, meet enslaved Anakin Skywalker with his mother. Now, the person that owns, the slaver who owns Anakin and his mother, owns a junk shop, and he has the materials that Qui-Gon needs for his ship. So, what then happens is that because they don't actually have enough money, or the right type of money, to buy this equipment, Qui-Gon bets on Anakin entering into this pod race, which no one really thinks Anakin can win, but he does. So, he gets the equipment to fix the spaceship. Heading back to the spaceship, fixing the spaceship, Darth Maul arrives and attempts to kill Qui-Gon. And that doesn't happen. And they get on the spaceship and go back to the capital planet of this universe called Coruscant, I think. Is that Coruscant? Yep. And go and visit the Jedi Temple, in which he is tested to see how strong he is in the Force. Yoda is not impressed and thinks he's too old and he's not really suitable for the Jedi training. Qui-Gon is like, well, I don't care, I'm still going to train him. So, later on, going back to Naboo, Queen Amidala is basically arrested, and the Jedi need to go and rescue her. And basically all hell breaks loose, and Darth Maul turns up, fighting Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and in the end, basically, Qui-Gon dies, Obi-Wan becomes the Master, takes Anakin as his apprentice after Qui-Gon's final words to him say, "Trust me, he's strong in the Force, he will bring balance," all that malarkey, and that's it. Basically, then 10 years later, you have Episode 2, The Clone Wars, in which Obi-Wan is a fully fledged master. Anakin is nearing the end of his apprenticeship as a Jedi, and he is sent on one mission with his master to protect the now Senator Amidala, who's no longer Queen, but she is now working in the Senate of the universe. So, because of this, basically someone, unbeknown to us, is trying to get her killed, but we discover that is Darth Sidious, the Dark Lord of the Sith, who, after the events of 10 years prior, has had to find himself a new apprentice, who has gone and found the fallen Jedi Master, Count Dooku, and turned him into his new apprentice, Darth Tyrannus. Now, Count Dooku isn't massively impressed with this. He likes the idea of being the Dark Lord of the Sith, but he's not massively keen on being the apprentice. But he uses his time as the apprentice to really kind of learn from his new master, and then work on it, and just kind of like learn as much as he possibly can from this new master of his. So, like I say, he's been sent to attempt to assassinate Padme, who doesn't succeed. Anakin tells the Jedi Order that he thinks it would be better if they go to Padme's home planet, with Anakin there to protect her, and the Jedi say, okay, that's fair enough, we'll let you do that. Basically, it's a really nice place, full of lakes, a couple of hills, some dodgy fruit, and basically, while there, she discovers that he's an attractive looking bloke, he discovers that she's a fit looking woman, and they basically declare that they fancy each other. Elsewhere, Obi-Wan Kenobi has gone off and discovered a dodgy planet where you've got some people with really long necks who are growing clones of some guy who a Jedi a couple of decades earlier had commissioned as a clone army. Bit funny. So, Obi-Wan Kenobi goes back to the Jedis and tells them what's going on, thinking this is a bit odd, but just before that, the guy who's being cloned, he has attacked Obi-Wan Kenobi because he's just realised what's going to happen, because Obi-Wan Kenobi is not the person that is meant to have turned up. It's not really the Jedi, it's really the Sith, and that's backfired on them. So, with that, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin and Padme are all kidnapped, and they are placed in a massive big sort of ring, and 3 animals are sent in to try and kill them. Fortunately, just before anything can really badly happen, all the Jedi and all the clones turn up, and the start of the Clone Wars. And at the end of that film, Anakin and Padme secretly get married. Yeah, so, but then in the next 3 years, there is a shitload of conflict where there is where Anakin, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Padme, and Anakin's new apprentice, Ahsoka Tano, basically get into a load of problems. Different Jedi like Yoda, Mincemeat, Master Windu, and loads of others fight the Clone Wars and try and defeat the Emperor, or Darth Tyrannus' apprentice, Ventress, and just a shitload of other people and their droids. So, that's basically that. Like I say, by the end of the war, you have General Grievous, who is a droid general who is basically hates everything to do with the Jedi, apart from the fact that they've got pretty lightsabers. He tries to kill Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he's kidnapped the Chancellor, even though it's secretly his boss, even though he knows it. And, well, actually no, Count Dooku's done that. Anakin and Obi-Wan end up killing Count Dooku, which isn't exactly what the Chancellor had in mind, but he knew that he had to replace Count Dooku. So now he's going to try and convert Anakin into becoming his new apprentice. So one of the things, so like I say, we now know that Anakin and Padme are married, and they are quite happy living secretly, because no one knows that they're actually married, apart from C-3PO and R2-D2, their 2 droids. So, like I say, what happens then is the Chancellor tries to brainwash and seduce Anakin into thinking, forget the Jedi, the Sith are the best way to go, let's do this. And he plays on the fact that Anakin was not strong enough to save his mother, who was kidnapped and ended up dying on her home planet of Tatooine, and Anakin was unable to save her. But the Chancellor basically says, if you listen to me in my training, you will be able to be strong enough to save Padme when she gives birth to your child. So, because Anakin starts having dreams of Padme dying in childbirth. That obviously disturbs him a lot. He is basically almost being completely converted to the Chancellor, but then the Chancellor declares himself a Sith. Anakin knows the Sith are bad, naughty people, shouldn't be doing it. So he goes and tells Mace Windu. Mace Windu takes a couple of other Jedi. They come in to arrest the Chancellor. The Chancellor's not going to have that. He goes full Emperor on them, starts sending lightning bolts to them, and he kills them all. Anakin then says, okay, I will, if you tell me how to save Padme, I'll become your new apprentice. The Chancellor then says, arise, Darth Vader, and he does, so he's now become Darth Vader. He then sends him off to a mission to kill the Jedi younglings and the Trade Federation, while he gets all of his clones that have secretly had chips inside their heads to kill all their Jedi Masters who are still technically fighting the remnants of the Clone Wars. And and then a Jedi apprentice who was an apprentice during the Clone Wars didn't die, and he took his own apprentice, and they bounded together a rebel group to try and save what then became the Empire, to go back to what it used to be, which was the Galactic Senate. And like I say, in that respect, that all kind of happened. And then over the couple of different seasons that have been made of that, they meet a grown-up version of Ahsoka. They meet Darth Vader. They finally meet a Jedi Master called Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's living on Tatooine as a hermit, looking over a young Luke Skywalker on Tatooine. Then, on the other side of the galaxy, the daughter of the man who's helping create the original Death Star is made to join the Reliance, and she then has to form a group of rebels, or in the rebel group, to find the plans for the Death Star to send back to the upper command of the Resistance, which they are fortunate enough to do, apart from the fact that that whole squad dies. Then we go into the original 3 films of Star Wars. Episode 4, which starts off with Luke being on Tatooine, living a very happy life with his aunt and uncle, drinking blue milk. Indeed. And then you've got, then, what else do you have? Then you have the ship that had the, so, when I was talking about the rebels earlier on, what happened then is, they were on one ship, the plans were given to some guy, who then transferred to a different ship, who then went over to a different ship, gave it to Leia, who then put it onto R2-D2, who then got jetted down to Tatooine, who then tried to find on Tatooine Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is obviously living there as a hermit, like I said earlier on. So, with that all in mind, they get bought by Luke and his uncle Owen, and then what happens is they try and escape to go and find Obi-Wan Kenobi. Luke finds a message saying that they're looking for someone called Obi-Wan Kenobi. He thinks, well, there's only one person I know called Kenobi, but his name's Old Ben Kenobi. I wonder if he's any relation. Evidently it is, same person, all that. Just trying to be in hiding for a little bit. He then says, okay, well, let's go and find him. He gets attacked by some little sand people. Obi-Wan Kenobi saves him. He gets to see the message. He says, Luke, your father was a good man, but he got killed by an evil man who was working for the Empire. Sorry about that. That was a really bad Alec McGuinness impression. But so they're like, oh well, look, let's go and fight the Resistance. Let's go and help the Resistance and fight the Empire. That would be what my father would do. Let's do that. And so what then happens is that's what happens. They go off and go to the capital of Tatooine to try and find a ship to take them to Coruscant. They meet a smuggler called Han and his Wookiee mate Chewie, and they hire space on his ship, and they get ready to go. But unfortunately, when they're on the ship, Luke's having a bit of training, and at the same time, the Death Star has been activated by Darth Vader, who has blown up Alderaan, and with Alderaan now being destroyed, there is actually nowhere for them to go, because Alderaan was where basically the head of the Resistance lived, who was Princess Leia's adoptive father. So, like I say, at this point we have all that. They get sucked onto one of the Empire's ships, and they have to pretend to be stormtroopers capturing the Wookiee, which they do. They sneak on. They find Princess Leia, who's been arrested after being caught by Darth Vader. And then what happens is that then what happens is this. Then obviously they save her, and then they have to try and get off this ship. And as they try and get off this ship, Darth Vader senses that Obi-Wan Kenobi's around, and he's like, oh, now I need to, last time we faced each other, you were the master, I was but the apprentice. But now I am the master, and you are old. And they have a bit of a fight. Obi-Wan Kenobi notices that Luke is watching, and is like, I have to be the distraction here to let Luke and everyone else escape. So he lets Darth Vader kill him. And he goes straight into the Force, which is quite wonderful. Brilliant scene. Luke is basically completely ruins what Obi-Wan Kenobi was trying to do, and screams, no! But that doesn't really matter. But, so, jumping into the future, Luke has done a little bit more training by himself, gets told, this is episode 5 by the way, gets told by the Force Ghost of Obi-Wan Kenobi, go to some little planet where a Jedi Master who trained me will be there, and he will teach you how to become a better Jedi than I ever could. His name's Yoda. He's Mr. Wonderful. Go there and he'll teach you how to be a good Jedi. So Luke's is like, alright, fair enough, I'll do that. Leaving Leia and Han on Hoth. Actually not after Hoth, because they've just been attacked. Luke's been attacked by a snow beast that tried to kill him, messed up his face. But yeah, so they all go their separate ways. At the same time, Han goes to an old mate of his and is like, look, I've got enough money here. I'm going to go and pay in all the dues that I have to, because I've got a massive bounty on my head after being wanted by one of the biggest crime lords in the Empire. So I better go and sort that out before I do anything else. But that's only sort of the sensible thing to do here. So that's what he does. They go to his mate, and he owns a spaceship that he thought he could trust, but he can't because he's in cahoots with Darth Vader. They get captured. Han gets put in carbonite and made into a table. And what else? Then so then he gets taken by, so you know the fella earlier on who's the original blueprint of the clones. Well, I forgot to tell you that he had a perfect clone given to him, but without any of the aging formula put in. Because what they did was, when the clones were old enough, they gave them a boost of this serum that made them age really quickly, so they became adults automatically. But he said he wanted a clone for himself so he could make it his own son. So he had a son of his, it's bullshit. But that happened. So this guy has basically followed into his father's footsteps and became a bounty hunter. And he's now working for Jabba the Hutt. So, now, episode 5, Luke, Leia, C-3PO, R2-D2 have to now crack a plan to get Han back, which they do after killing Boba Fett, and then afterwards they basically end up deciding that Luke goes back to see Yoda after saving Han, and he just gets there in time just to realise that Yoda's about to die. Yoda tells him that you Luke are the best Jedi. Carry on the Jedi Order, or whatever. That's a really bad Yoda impression. I have noticed I'm doing really bad impressions today, but hi ho. So, like I said, that happened, and then what ends up happening is when he comes back, he then faces Darth Vader, who says, "You, Luke, are my son. You will follow me, and we can overthrow the Emperor and rule the galaxy together, like father and son." And Luke's like, "No, not feeling that." But he says, "I will not fight you, father, but you take me to the Emperor, and I'll defeat him for you. And then you'll be turned into a good man again." Okay, so that happens. They have Luke and Vader have a bit of a fight, and you find out that the Emperor is basically taunting Vader, and Vader's had enough, so he kills the Emperor. He then gets weakened by this, and then he dies in his son's arms after becoming Anakin Skywalker again, and regretting of all the bad things he's done in his life. So that was that. At the end, you discover that Han and Leia are about to get married, and everything's good in the universe. Luke's going to go off and create a new generation of Jedi. 30 years, and then 30 years in the future, we're back. This mysterious fella with a fucked up face called Snoke has created the First Order, which is basically the Empire, but not so empire-y. And he's like, right, I'm going to become the new Emperor. And he's got Leia and Han's son Ben, he's created, called him Kylo Ren, and Leia has to become the head of the Resistance again. Luke is pissed off after he discovered that Ben was about to be turned to the dark side. He was then about to find out why, and he turned on his lightsaber, and Ben awoke with the sound, just thought that his uncle was going to kill him. Ben was horrified and tried to attack him. They fought for a little bit. Ben burnt down Luke's Jedi school, and then Luke was like, I can't do this, I'm a shit show. I'm going to go and do what Ben Kenobi did, which is to live as a hermit on a little island, which is fair enough. So, with this in mind, we then find a girl called Rey, who's living on an island, living on a planet, and she's an orphan, and she basically finds crap in the desert and tries to sell it for food. We have a stormtrooper who has his mind wiped every couple of days, and he's got sick of the First Order and he doesn't like it, so he wants to leave. And so he escapes and then creates himself the name Finn. Actually, no, someone else does that. Then you have a pilot called Poe, who then is a bit cocky, thinks himself Mr. Wonderful. Then he gives Finn the name Finn, and then basically the whole idea is the three of them have to try and, Finn and Leia try and get to the Resistance. They meet Han, who's became a smuggler with Chewie again, and then they basically have to get back to a piece of map that has the coordinates of where Luke Skywalker's been hiding for the last 20 something years, and people are like, oh, I'm not feeling this. And then Han gets killed by his son Kylo Ren, who then Leia gets really distraughted, and it's like, we need to get Luke back because Luke will be the only one who can really save us from what's actually happening here. So Rey's like, she was like, I'll take the Millennium Falcon, go and get Luke, and we'll bring him back. So the next film is Rey is with Luke. She's like, please train me, I want to become a Jedi. He's like, piss off, I ain't doing that. She has like kind of forced conversations with Kylo, and like, kind of, come on, I'll be a better master than Luke Skywalker. Come over to the dark side, we'll be brilliant together. They kill Snoke, and Luke then and then obviously there's a massive fight between the First Order and the Resistance. Leia almost gets killed. Luke and Kylo have a weird sort of fight at the end where Luke isn't really there, but it's a ghost, but he's still on the planet. And then Kylo's like, I need to kill you, so he kills him. But because of the amount of force use it takes to do the projection, it actually does kill Luke on the planet where he's hiding. And then then everyone's all a bit upset. So yeah, that's basically the entirety of the films and TV shows that I know of Star Wars. I hope that's kind of helped. If you like this video, please subscribe or leave a comment if you really want to. If you like, you can follow me on Twitter. You can become one of my patrons on the link down below. And like I say, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, I shall see you next time. Goodbye.